Good day everyone, my name is Jocelyn P. Florendo from Group 10 and I am going to discuss our topic which is all about diversity and cultural sensitivity. And here's the overview of our topic. Define diversity and inclusion. It includes also the race, gender, and sexual orientation. Another one is celebrate the differences and unique views. And the last one is provide opportunities for growth and development. So first, let's define diversity. According to the dictionary, diversity is the condition of being different. It means that it is the state or quality of not being the same as someone or someone else. When defining diversity, we should not only focus on race and culture because it only reinforces stereotypes and promotes an us versus them mentality. When you say stereotypes in the context of diversity, it is ignoring the individuality and complexity of people, leading to unfair judgments and biases. For example, is you assume that all the members of a particular racial groups are sharing the same traits or characteristics. For the us versus them mentality, it happens when, for example, in a group identity, where you associate yourselves in a particular group and view others outside that group as different or they are others. So that's where the competition begins. Diversity has a complex meaning and it includes dimension of differences. Those differences can manifest in various ways such as in terms of characteristics, experiences, perspectives, beliefs, values, and backgrounds. And to better understand the meaning of diversity, let's proceed to the two major characteristics of diversity. It includes the primary and the secondary. The primary characteristics of diversity are usually the most visible. Most visible because these characteristics are often the first aspects of an individual's identity that others notice or perceive. For example, are race, gender, and sexual orientation. What is race? Race is usually associated with biology and linked with physical characteristics such as hair texture and skin color. The categories listed under race have evolved over the last 200 plus years. Some of the previously used terms are now considered offensive and have been removed. Currently, the U.S. Census Bureau uses the following guide to help people pick the category that best describes them. The first one is white. The category white includes all the individuals who identify with one or more nationalities or ethnic groups originating in Europe, Middle East, or North Africa. So, they are the individuals who categorized as. Next one is Black or African American. It includes all the individuals originates in any of the black racial groups of Africa. Example of the people from these groups includes African American, Jamaican, Haitian, Nigerian, Ethiopian, Somali, and people who identify as Ghanaian, South African, Barbarian, Kenyan, Liberian, and Bahamian also fall under this category. Is American Indian or Alaska Native. So the people includes in these categories are the people who originates in North and South America. Groups that fall under categories include Navajo Nation, Blackfeet Tribe, Mayan, the Aztecs, the native village of Barrow Inupiat Traditional Government, and the Nome Eskimo community. So those are the people who fall under the categories of American Indian or Alaska Native. Another categories is Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander. So those are the people who originates in Hawaii, Guam, Samoa, or other Pacific islands. So the people under these categories are the Native Hawaiian, Samoan, Chamorro, and other Pacific Islander. For example is Tongan, Fijian, and Marshallese. Another category is the Asian. These are the individuals who originated in Far East, Southeast Asia, and Indian subcontinent. So these groups includes Chinese, as the Filipino, Asian Indian, Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese, and other Asian. For example is Pakistani, Cambodian, and Hmong. So those are the people who fall under the Asian categories. If in case that some other individuals did not identify themselves for the above categories, they can still choose some other race options and just input how they identify themselves. And now let's proceed to another primary characteristics which is gender. Gender is not predetermined based only on sex. We can see other aspects like gender roles. Gender roles, it refers to the societal expectation and norms regarding how individuals should behave, think, and interact based on their perceived gender. Gender roles refers to the societal expectation regarding on how the individual should behave or interact based on their perceived gender. For example, in a family context, men are the breadwinners and the women are the nurturers. The next one is gender identity. Gender identity is the feelings of what you are on the inside, regardless of the sex assigned at birth. The next one is gender expression. So this is how you express your gender identity. For example is you are a boy but you consider yourself as a girl, so it can be seen in your clothing, and maybe you're wearing a dress, and your gender expression describes as a feminine. The next one is sexuality or sexual orientation. It refers to a person enduring a emotional, romantic, or sexual attraction to others. So, the terms we commonly use to describe sexual orientation includes the gay. They are the men who attracted to other men. Next one is lesbian. It is the woman who attracted to other woman. Next one is the straight. It is the person who attracted to another gender. The next is the bisexual, which is a person who attracted to two or more genders. The other one is pansexual. It is the person who attracted to multiple genders and sexes. The next one is asexual. It is the person who does not experience sexual attraction to any gender. The next one is asexual. It is the person who does not experience sexual attraction to any gender. The next one is aromantic. A person who doesn't experience many romantic feelings for someone. The next one is demisexual or demi. It is the person who can only feel sexual attraction with someone they have established an emotional connection with. The last one is the queer. Queer is the term used to describe people who do not fit on traditional ideas about gender or sexuality. Now let's proceed to the secondary characteristics of diversity. The secondary characteristics of diversity focuses on the way of experience. For example, in school and family status. So therefore, since the secondary characteristics is focusing on the way of experience, it is not noticeable as compared to the primary characteristics. That's all.
So good day. And since we're talking about diversity, you can equate it to difference, and you can think of difference as a unique or distinct quality or characteristics of an individual that sets him apart from the others. And sometimes these differences can create a barrier. So this is where inclusion comes in picture. So before we proceed to the importance of inclusion, let us learn let's first define what it is. So, inclusion is an organizational effort and practices in which different groups or individuals having different backgrounds are culturally and socially accepted and welcomed. So, by that definition, we can say that inclusion fosters a sense of belonging, and in a sense, that people can feel they are valued and supported, especially in groups. Inclusion is very important because you cannot guarantee that all the time you will be working with people that you have established a bond with. Sometimes you will be dealing with people that have a diverse background and diverse culture, and by having an inclusive environment they can feel that they are really part of that group, and that they are not left out. So again, guys, earlier we discussed about diversity or differences, but the emphasis was more on the individual level. So now we will be upgrading and we will see it in a collective manner. So when you think of collective differences, what first comes in your mind? If you think of culture, you are correct. So what is culture? Culture is the manifestation of the combined thought process, ideas, customs, rituals, and social conduct of a particular community of people. So, in a sense, culture serves as the identity of a group of people. It is a compilation of all the practices that has been honed and passed down throughout the years. And it serves as their identity, as I said. And there are two types of culture. First is the material culture. So, in basic terms, material culture is the physical or tangible manifestation of culture. So, examples of this are food, makeup, clothing, shelter, and even establishments built by the people within that culture. And next is the non-material culture. So this is the intangible counterpart of material culture. So if the material culture is the physical manifestation, this one is more of an abstract thing, meaning you cannot see it, but they are real. And most of the time, this have more, these have more impact on the way people live. So examples of this are morals, beliefs, and values, traditions, and even rules that govern within that particular culture. And since culture is a combination of shared characteristics, we can make generalizations out of it. And sometimes these generalizations can have a positive or negative connotation depending on how other people perceive it. So first we have cultural generalization. This is categorizing members of the same group as having similar characteristics, but the generalizations are flexible and allow for the incorporation of new cultural information. So basically, this means that you have a general description for the people within a community, but then you do not expect that every single one of them will fit that description. This is just a base information for you to get a glimpse of their culture, for you to properly act when you interact with them. So when you apply it to all, this then evolves as stereotypes. And as we all know, stereotypes are um, these these have a negative implication for the people that are subjected to it. So for you to better understand the difference between the two, um, think of this scenario. You are a food blogger who travels around the world to try different dishes, and this time you plan to go to France to try their dishes. And upon searching for reviews, you notice that other vloggers have a positive reviews for their dishes. So your expectation is that French cuisines are delectable. So that is just a cultural generalization, because your assumption is that their dishes are good, but when you think of every single French individual to be exceptionally skilled at cooking, that is a stereotype because your general description, you assume that because you have a general description, you assume that everyone fits that description. So I hope you are clear on the difference between the two. So now that we're done discussing the differences and its importance, both in individual and collective levels, now let us proceed to opportunities for growth and development. So, as we have discussed, differences and similarities exist between people, and it is crucial for us to understand these two if we are to create an environment where everyone feels included, feels respected and valued. So, one way for us to develop such is by being culturally sensitive. So, what does it mean to be culturally sensitive? So, it is being aware that cultural differences and similarities exist between people without assigning them a value, either positive or negative, better or worse, or right or wrong. It simply means that you recognize that you can still be similar and at the same time different in many aspects, such as in your culture, and you don't see them or you don't see yourself as being superior nor inferior to others. Just simply see them as an equal person with different characteristics as you to you. So Milton Binet developed a framework for cultural sensitivity. He proposes that there are 6 stages in which a person can categorize his level of cultural sensitivity. First is denial, second is defense, third is minimization, fourth is acceptance, fifth is adaptation, and lastly, integration. So in denial stage, there is no recognition of cultural differences at all. So a person who is in this stage feels superior and his way of doing is the only way of doing, and the rest of the culture that are present out there are all invalid. So the next stage is defense, and in this stage, the person recognizes that there is a difference but feels threatened about it. So in response, they act defensively. So an example of this is when an alpha male feels threatened by empowered women or by strong independent women. So they think that the classic way of living where man men overpower women or women are submissive to men is the only way of doing, but then feels threatened when they see a person or a woman who feels confident about herself, who acts independently. So in so they throw shady remarks to this person just because they feel threatened by their presence. So next is minimization. So in this stage, the person shifts their focus on the similarities and sets aside the differences. So you might think that everything should be universal. So although that might sound a positive thing, in reality that is toxic because he does not recognize that the importance of differences and that differences are there for a reason. So for instance, a person who is a non-black person who is comfortable in saying the n-word, so he might think that why can't I say this, it's just a word, I can say whatever I want. So we all know that saying the n-word is inappropriate, but then he thinks that it's just a word so he can say it. Next is acceptance. In this stage, this is really where the sensitivity or the understanding comes in. So um, in this stage, the person recognizes the difference, and although he might not agree with it, he still respects it. So example is a Christian individual um, who sees a Muslim refuse to eat pork might think that, oh, why can't he eat pork, it's delicious, but then he does not say anything because he knows that it's part of the religion, so he respects that. So that is for acceptance. So next is adaptation. So in this stage, not only is the person aware of the differences and respect it, he also acts appropriately when the situation calls for it. So an example is when an American citizen who lives in the Philippines for months now, um, would receive blessing from older people, or what we call mano. So he does it because he knows it's the appropriate thing to do, even though he doesn't practice it way back in America. So the last stage is integration. So this is almost similar with adaptation in a way that the person acts appropriately in a situation, but then the person does it not because it's the appropriate thing to do, but because it's has now become part of his being. So this is most common for people um, with multiple culture. So they do it just because it's part of who they are now. It's it has become natural for them. So example is a Filipino American citizen. So his he embraces his Filipino roots. He does all our traditions, all our practices. He eats our food, but also he loves being American. He embraces his American root. He eats what they eat in America. He does what they do in America. He plays what they play in America. So that's all for the stages of cultural sensitivity.